Good afternoon, everybody. I am Courtney, the owner of CSCs Candle Bakery in Princeton, West Virginia. And today I'm going to show you how I created our hyper-realistic donut wax melts, complete with the entire process of the silicone mold making and the pouring of the wax melts, as well as our clip and WVVA news about our shop and our new wax melt bakery bar. Here we go.
So the first step into creating my hyper-realistic donut wax melt is, of course, our silicone mold. So I purchased these donuts from Walmart because I felt like they were the perfect size for our wax melt bakery bar. Here you see me placing them into the pan to get them positioned in the way that I want them in the pan. And I also decided to create some mini croissants because I felt like they were the perfect addition to the bakery bar as well. So now it's time to add my super glue to my food pieces to get them adhered to the pan. And this can be the tricky part because you have to add just the right amount of super glue or it can mess up the food and it won't stick to your pan. So I let these dry for about 2.5 hours, sometimes longer, but typically it's about 2.5 hours till they're ready. Then I add our at-home silicone mold mixture to the food items in the pan. I wait 12 to 14 hours, sometimes longer, depending on how thick they are. And now it's time to pop out the food pieces. So this is my most hated part of making silicone molds with food because it makes such a mess and it takes forever to get all of the little food pieces and crumbs out. So after I've done the best that I can, it's time to wash it. I wash these molds about 8 to 10 times to get them completely clean, which also takes me about an hour and a half. So now it's time to add the wax blueberries that I had made previously to the mold to give it that realistic blueberry texture. I add my fragrance and my candle dye to my wax mixture and just look at that shimmer and color. I pour my wax into my funnel and I pour the wax into the mold. After it hardens, which takes about 2.5 hours, I pop out the wax donuts. And this part can be very frustrating because it's so easy to break them and then I'd have to start all over. So now I grab my carving knife and I carve off the excess wax to give it more of that realistic look and carve out the center as well. I smooth out the edges around the donut. And now it's time to dip them in the sweet blueberry vanilla icing that we put on them. And it makes me just want to take a bite. It smells so good. So here is our finished result. Look at that texture and the icing, and it just makes me so hungry. So now it's time to add them to our wax melt bakery bar, where we offer a large variety of different wax melts. And here's my favorite part, our news segment.
This one Princeton business is taking the saying too good to eat literally, creating hyper-realistic scented wax melts that look like real bakery items.
So we started our wax melt bakery bar where we create hyper-realistic pieces such as the cinnamon sugar pretzel. And then we have like Pop-Tarts and we have the sugar cookies, are life-size shapes of the actual bakery items. They smell exactly like they look. With our hot fudge Pop-Tarts, they smell exactly like the actual Pop-Tart themselves. So I have to pour the wax into our molds. I hand make these molds from the real food, so that way it's realistic. After I pour it and it sets, I pop them out of the mold. I would say that the painting is the biggest secret behind it to give it that realistic baked look. I started 3 years ago, and if you go back and look at my previous work from back then and compare it to now, it's been a long journey to get the texturizing and the techniques behind it down pat. Hopefully for the years to come we get even better.